بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وبسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم، والدعاء على الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Myself, my name Asim Hussain. Welcome to you all. Starting this course, inshallah ta'ala, on how to use the Mushaf. So we'll start with the first thing. We'll start with the recitation of a page of the Qur'an, inshallah ta'ala. We start with the recitation of a page of the Qur'an. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألف لام ميم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم. نزل عليك الكتاب بالحق مصدقا لما بين يديه وأنزل التوراة والإنجيل من قبل هدى للناس وأنزل الفرقان. إن الذين كفروا بآيات الله لهم عذاب شديد والله عزيز ذو انتقام. إن الله لا يخفى عليه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء. هو الذي يصوركم في الأرحام كيف يشاء. لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات هن أم الكتاب وأخر متشابهات. فأما الذين في قلوبهم زيغ فيتبعون ما تشابه منه ابتغاء الفتنة وابتغاء تأويله وما يعلم تأويله إلا الله. والراسخون في العلم يقولون آمنا به كل من عند ربنا وما يذكر إلا أولو الألباب. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا إنك جامع الناس ليوم لا ريب فيه إن الله لا يخلف الميعاد. صدق الله العظيم. صدق الله العظيم. Bismillah. So we start, inshallah ta'ala. Just briefly introduce myself. Myself, Asim Hussain. Alhamdulillah, I've been blessed to start my studying of the Quran, my studies of the Quran, 2014. I started with Ustad Tahir Tahir Zaman from Warrington in 2014, and then I started reciting with Sheikh Harun Hanif. Quite a few of you would know him, inshallah ta'ala. I started my recitation now, learning recitation of the Quran with Sheikh Harun. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me to start reciting with Sheikh Abdul Razzaq from Syria. So I learned the rules of Tajweed and recited with him over a period of almost 3 years. And then I had the opportunity also to recite with Sheikh Abdul Jawad, Sheikh Mahmoud Abdul Jawad. from Syria, from Egypt, from Cairo. So I studied Tajweed with him and did recitation with him for over a year as well. And now, alhamdulillah, I'm here in Istanbul reciting with Sheikh Muhammad Amir. Sheikh Muhammad Amir, he's a Sayyid, he's from Ahlul Bayt. Sheikh Muhammad Amir. I'm reciting to him and I'm completing my memorization of the Quran with him as well. Alhamdulillah. So all my teachers, Sheikh Harun, Sheikh Abdul Razzaq, and Sheikh Mahmoud, all of them have ijazah. Yeah, they have an unbroken chain of transmission all the way back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is, their teacher authorized them in their recitation, saying that your recitation is the same as the recitation I took from my teacher, who took from his teacher all the way back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So all of them have ijazah. And my current teacher, Sheikh Amir, he has ijazah in all the different ways to recite the Quran, in all the different 10 varying transmissions of recitation of the Quran. He has ijazah in all of them. So alhamdulillah, without further ado, unless anyone has any pressing questions before starting, we might as well start because we have a fair bit of ground to cover, inshallah ta'ala. Anyone, anything? Okay. Bismillah, let's start, inshallah ta'ala. So, sorry. Bismillah. So let's start, inshallah ta'ala. So what are we going to be doing in this course? As the title of the course, which is quite lengthy to be honest, suggests. So we're going to be talking about using the Mushaf. We're going to be talking about using the Mushaf. What do we mean by the Mushaf? The Mushaf is that which is physically, that which you physically hold in your hands, which contains the Qur'an, which is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which was revealed unto the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam through Jibreel alayhi salam. So that which you hold physically in your hand, you refer to, you say that it's the Mushaf. It's the Mushaf. Yeah. We're going to look at why it's important to know how to use the Mushaf, and what that entails. What exactly do we need to know, and how that informs us in our recitation of the Quran. So as the title suggests, we may be talking about a few things which may raise a few eyebrows, but that's what it is, inshallah ta'ala. So we may be, as the title says, setting the cat among the pigeons a bit. Yeah. But yeah, before that, at any point, if anyone feels you want to say something, please don't feel shy. Yeah, so please don't feel shy. By all means, please go ahead. Yeah, at any point, if you want to ask any questions, I'm here at your service. So firstly, what do we mean using the Mushaf? Why is that even important? Yeah, like what does that even mean? So most of us, the vast majority of us, what is our experience of approaching the Quran? We go through what is called as the Qaida, like the Nurani Qaida, which are the Yassam al-Quran, whatever you call it, which basically gives you familiarity with recognizing letters and harakat, vowels, which is like the fatha, dhamma, kasra, or what you would know like zair, zabar, pesh. So you familiarize yourself with letters and vowels, harakat, and then you jump straight into the Mushaf. But there's much more information there in the Mushaf than just the letters and harakat. There's a lot more going on in the Mushaf. And if that was not important, that was not needed, it would not be there. Logically, if there was no need for those signs. If there was no benefit in having those signs, they would not be there. Because as we know, when the Quran was revealed in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there were no markings. They had, to the extent that there were not even the dots letter on the Zir Zabar Pesh or the Fatha the Makasra, there were not even the dots on the letters. Yeah. So if there are markings present in the Mus'haf which you see before you, it's for good reason. And we should know what that is. Otherwise, we are none the wiser to what is required of us. Yeah. So this is a key step. You could have very good tajweed. Your ability to articulate letters is very good. But if you didn't know what the Mus'haf is telling you, if you didn't know what these signs which are present in the Mus'haf, what are they telling you? What is required of you? If you didn't know them, your recitation is not going to be correct. It's not going to be correct. Yeah. That is why it's important to know the Mus'haf. You need to familiarize yourself with the Mus'haf and understand what it's trying to tell you in order to give yourself a chance to be able to recite correctly. For instance, if someone were to tell you, this is the steering wheel, this is the brake pedal, this is the accelerator, this is the brake pedal, this is the clutch, and the the brake pedal, and then you've got the gear. You know what they do? Go ahead and drive. Yeah. Pretty sure you're not going to be able to drive well. You're going to put yourself at risk and others at risk. Yeah. So it's not just knowing the letters and the harakat. There's more things you need to know in order to be able to recite correctly. Yeah. And that's what this course is about. This course is not about tajweed. Yeah. This course is not about the recitation. This course is about the input. Yeah. It's about step one. It's about understanding what the Mus'haf is telling you. The tajweed, the recitation, is the next step. This is the first one. Any questions on any questions? Any thoughts? Any comments? Sorry, who was that? That's voice. That's too low. You need to speak up.
I was just saying no questions. Jazakallah khair.
Okay, no questions. Okay, there you go. So firstly, okay, maybe we've kind of made the point that it's important to kind of, okay, yeah, there's a few more things as well we need to know. Okay, so we've kind of made that point. Okay, so what's this big hoo-ha about the Mushaf? Yeah, like the Uthmani Mushaf and the Indo-Pak Mushaf. Like people know them in different names. Yeah, like the Uthmani Mushaf these are the most commonly known names. Like the Uthmani Mushaf is also like known like the Arabic Mushaf, and the Indo-Pak like the Urdu Mushaf or the Mughal script or the Naskh script. Different names, Persian script. All of them mean the same. All of them mean the what you commonly know as the Indo-Pak script and the Uthmani script. So what's the big hoo-ha about them? Isn't all the Quran? It's all Quran, isn't it? Yes, it is all Quran. But there are differences between the Uthmani Mushaf and the Indo-Pak Mushaf. And we need to see, in order to understand what the Mushaf is trying to tell us, we need to first see which one we need to use, yeah? So just to go through a few things, inshallah ta'ala. So what do we mean by the Indo-Pak Mushaf and the Uthmani Mushaf? So the one you see on your right, yeah, the one you see on your right is what many, if not most of you, would be familiar with, if I'm not mistaken, and that is called the Indo-Pak Mushaf. Yeah, it's very commonly used in the subcontinent. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. It's very commonly used in the subcontinent. In fact, it is predominantly used. You'd be hard pressed to find someone who uses the Uthmani Mushaf in the subcontinent. Yeah, so that is the Indo-Pak Mushaf. And on the left is the Uthmani Mushaf. On top both of them are the same. The bottom one is the digitized font. It's a computer generated font, yeah. Whereas the one on the top is a handwritten one, which most mushafs you would find are handwritten. Handwritten in the sense the master copy is handwritten, and obviously the rest are printed. But both are the same. Both are the same. There's no difference between them with regards to rules and recitation. Both are the same. But yeah, so that's the Uthmani Mushaf on the left, and the Indo-Pak Mushaf on the right. And as you can already see, I've circled the Indo-Pak Mushaf in a red box and the Uthmani Mushaf in a green box. So that clearly shows you I'm completely unbiased and neutral, isn't it? Nasreen, would you agree?
You know, I don't agree.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah. Okay, no comments. That was the wrong answer. Okay. Yeah. So basically, we just need to see what are the differences, and if one is better than the other with regards to helping us to recite correctly. With regards to helping us. See, you don't need to be all polite. So obviously, I'm saying things which might be very foreign to you. Yeah, you might not have heard it as such, or you might not. You might find it strange. If you do so, just say, and then I'll make my point, and then we can see if we agree. Inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, I'm just yeah. You don't need to. Yeah, I'm not going to do anything, to be honest. Yeah, I can't do anything. So we'll just look at a few examples. We'll just look at a few examples to compare between the two. Between the Indo-Pak script on the right, which many of you might be more familiar with, as opposed to the Uthmani script on the left. See, so when the first one, so if you look on the right, the Indo-Pak script, so the ones highlighted in red, if you can see, so the letters highlighted in the red, they all look similar, don't they? They all look similar. In fact, even the letters highlighted in purple, they all look similar. The purple and the red, all of them look the same, don't they? Anyone want to agree? It looks like an aleph. Yeah, you would know it as an aleph, isn't it? Anyone? Just
yes, it is an aleph.
If the class. Yeah, it is
yes,
an aleph. Yeah,
I agree with that. It is an aleph.
But I don't, but we'll talk about it. Yeah, so it looks like an aleph. You all know it as an aleph, yeah? All of it. Okay, so now let's come to the Uthmani Mushaf. So of all those letters there, if you look on the left now, if you look at the ones highlighted in green, can you see that they are different to the ones highlighted in blue, which is different to the ones highlighted with, I don't know, is it orange or brown, brownish orange, whatever. Yeah, let's go with brown, or yeah, let's go with brown. So can you see a difference? So the ones highlighted in green, you can see the sign of a Hamza there. The ones highlighted in green. It doesn't matter, it's either sat on top of the alif or below it, but you can see a Hamza there, yeah? And the ones highlighted in blue, you can see the head of a sword there. You can see that squiggly thing on top. Yeah, everyone with me so far? And the ones in brown, you don't see anything on it. Yeah? So the Uthmani Mushaf is differentiating between something which you can't make out in the Indo-Pak Mushaf. So the next question is, does it really matter? Does it really matter? Does that affect my recitation in any way? Yeah. So
Well,
yes,
personally, Ustad, sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's most welcome to Bismillah. Yes, please.
Yeah, because I really don't see any difference. It doesn't make any difference because if it's Hamza, it's still pronunciated, Iyyaka na'budu, and if it's just a Zair underneath the alif, it's still Iyyaka na'budu. So
Jazakallah khairan. You please stay with me now. So because you're going to work with me, yeah, we're going to see if there's a difference. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Bismillah. Tafaddal. So now, okay. Maliki yawmiddin, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. If you were to read those ayahs together, how would you read them without stopping in between?
Maliki
Ilya?
yawmiddin.
Maliki yawmiddin.
Yeah.
Yawmiddin, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Yeah, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Jazakallah. That's correct. I agree with you on that. Okay. If you were to join the second and the third ayah, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'inu, how do you join it with the next ayah?
اهدنا الصراط المستقيم ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم.
No, forget the last one. Forget the last ayah.
Okay.
That's a separate. Yeah.
اهدنا
Join
الصراط
the second.
المستقيم.
Yeah, join the second ayah and the third ayah, please.
إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم.
Okay, there I don't agree with you. See, this is where the issue comes. See, here, can you see on the left? That this is not a normal hamza. Can you see? It's not a normal hamza. In the Uthmani Mushaf, it tells you it's not a normal hamza. Can you see? Yeah.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, there's
Okay.
there's
So
no
now
hamza.
stay with me. Stay with me. This is it's called the Hamzatul Wasl. You don't need to remember any of this. I'm just trying to make the points here because we'll talk about this, understand this over the duration of the course in detail. Don't worry about it. We are just making the points here. If you were reading in the Uthmani Mushaf, you will know that this Hamza you only read when you start on it. If you're joining to what's before, you don't read it. So for instance, look here. Maliki yawmiddin. Why did you not read this? Because you're joining to what's before. If you didn't join, you would read ad-din. Yeah? Like Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So let's go to the so here again, Rabbil Alameen. If you were to start here for whatever reason, you start Al-Alameen. Likewise here, what do? Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. You don't do Ar-Rahmani Ar-Rahim, do you? This Hamza in the Uthmani Mushaf tells you read it only when you start on it. You don't read it otherwise. When you're joining to what's before, you don't read it. So coming back to joining these two ayahs which we're talking about, how would you join? You would join إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Ilyas, can you see that?
Yeah, I understand now. I understand. Yeah. Now when I'm looking at the Uthmani Mushaf and reading from there, then I understand it. But when I was reading from the Indo-Pak one, I was getting to what I was thinking. There was nothing wrong with that.
There you go. See, we have run into an issue, and this is Fatiha.
Understand?
Yeah, this is Surah Al-Fatiha. Yeah, and we've already run into an issue. Jazakallah. Do you agree with me now? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Another quick question while I'm on the thing when I'm speaking to you.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
You know, when you said that when Jibril alayhi salam brought the letters or the words or whatever, the Quran Sharif to our Prophet, and you said there was no dots and no lines and whatever. So how did it differentiate? How did it differentiate with these different words, with these different letters? Sorry, because I mean, if you're saying that say Re and Ze, I mean, apart from a dot, you wouldn't have differentiated it.
Yeah, Jazakallah, good question. But obviously, it's not an easy answer to give. The simple answer is the Quran recitation is primary. The written is secondary. Like literally, the word Quran itself, what does it mean? Quran comes from qira'ah, to recite. Iqra. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how did he start revelation? He started revelation with Iqra, recite. He didn't say uktub. He didn't say write it. He said recite it. The primary way by which we have the Quran is recitation. Likewise, what do we mean by recitation? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, بَلْ هُوَ آيَاتٌ فِي صُدُورِ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمِ. That this Quran is that which is in the breasts of those who have been given knowledge. It's that which is transmitted from the Prophet ﷺ to the companions, every generation, so on and so forth. In fact, if all the mushafs were to disappear from the face of this earth, as long as there are those people who have this transmission, and there are thousands and thousands, nothing of the Quran is lost. Nothing of the Quran is lost. So the recitation is primary. The written is secondary. To the extent, you can find mushafs where there are mistakes. You can find mushafs where there are mistakes. I've seen mushafs where there's like a word missing. I've seen mushafs where there's like a haraka missing. But how is the Quran preserved? The Quran is preserved through the transmission, oral transmission. That's primary. The physical mushaf aids in that regard. And in those generations, they didn't need those dots. These dots, first the dots came in. As more and more non-Arabs started coming into the fold of Islam, the dots first came in. And that was relatively soon in the history of Islam. The harakat came in later. So it was gradually on an as needed basis. There's a bit of history there, and I don't claim to know a lot. This is just very briefly from what I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand now, Ustad. Just another quick one. You know where you start Iyyaka na'budu? Well, on the Mushaf side, we have the Hamza Zair on it, so we pronounce it Iyyaka na'budu. But with the next line where it says Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim, it doesn't have a Hamza underneath. So,
yes,
but yet it is still, you know, when you recite it, it is recited Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim. Yes.
Yeah. That's when you start on it. That's when
I start on. But I'm just wondering why is there no Hamza Zair underneath the?
Because if that were there, then you would read it all the time. You would read it regardless of that. Then it would be like this. You would read it all the time. If it were like Iyaka, then you would read it even when you join. It's a different kind of Hamza in the language of Arabic. These are two different kinds of Hamza.
Okay.
They are not the same letter. Do you get? They are not the same letter. They're two. You could say they are similar to each other, but they're different.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's the first issue. That's the first issue. The first issue is you can't tell. So if you were to join with the according to the Indo-Pak Mushaf, you would even make a mistake in the Fatiha, and people do read these without stopping, because people know them very well and they read quickly. So what could one do? Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'inu ihdina siratal mustaqim. Incorrect. You have added a letter into the recitation, which is like a major mistake. And that's with the Fatiha. So can someone help me? The last on the Indo-Pak Mushaf. So wala, can someone read this for me, please? The fourth line, the bottom right. Can someone please volunteer? Someone is familiar with the Indo-Pak Mushaf. It's okay. It's just like Bismillah, go for it. Who's this?
Assalamu alaikum, Ustad. It's Zainab.
Yes, please, Zainab, go for it. So bottom right, please. How do you read it?
Wala ana abidum ma abattum.
Okay, so you do wala ana abidum. Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. But now if you look on the come across to the left, do you see something there?
Yeah.
So that tells you that alif is not read. That alif is not read.
It's silent.
You read it only when you stop on it. If you were to stop on it, then you'd say wala ana. But when you're carrying on, you don't read it. You read it wala ana abidum ma abadtum. When you're carrying on, you don't read it. So if you were to, I've been told that there are some Indo-Pak Mushafs which have like a small circle on it, but most of them, the ones I've looked at, they don't. So you're adding and ana is a very common word. Is a very commonly found word in the Mushaf. So if you didn't know, it looks the same. It looks like an alif. So you'd be adding an elongation, a letter, an alif into your recitation when there is none. Again, major mistake.
So do we just
Yeah.
memorize the rules of what you tell us?
No, you don't know the rules. You use the Uthmani Mushaf because it tells you clearly what you need to do.
Okay, so we just get used to it, I guess.
Yeah, that's what the course is about. Yeah.
Can
Okay,
I ask a
inshallah.
question, please? Sorry for interrupting you,
Go
Zainab.
ahead. Go ahead.
So does
No
this mean
problem.
that
Just a second. Just a second. Zainab, was that okay? Was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, that's fine, Ustad. We'll just have to get used to the Uthmani script, inshallah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I've made my point already.
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, there you go. Bismillah. Farnaz, yes, please.
so does it mean that it's wrong to use the Indo-Pak Mushaf?
Don't put words into my mouth, please.
No, sorry, that's not what I meant.
I'm trying to be,
In
no,
your
no, I'm
Is
trying
it,
to
does it just alter the recitation without knowing, Ustad?
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. People say, "Oh, I'm comfortable reading it so easy." It's just because you're used to it. That's all.
Yeah, we're used to it for that long.
Yeah, you're used to it, and you don't know what you're doing. That's the issue, basically. Like you're reciting, you think it's correct, but in reality, there you go. So what we are saying is, if you have to recite using the Indo-Pak Mushaf, there are a lot of things you need to know which the Mushaf isn't telling you in order to recite correctly. There are a lot of things you need to know in order to recite correctly. Whereas with the Uthmani Mushaf, there's signs for everything which is already there. So it makes it easy in that regard. So should we say it's wrong in the Indo-Pak Mushaf? Don't. I would not like to make statements like that. What I would rather say is, if you want to read with the Indo-Pak Mushaf and you want to read correctly, there are a lot of things you need to know. And not just know, you must know them at the tip of your fingers, because you should be able to do that as and when you're reciting. Which is, I think, a very tall ask. I think it's just easier to recite with the Uthmani Mushaf because everything is clearly laid out. There is signs for everything, tells you what you need to do. All you need to do is to learn those signs, that's all. A few more examples here, although it seems like I've made my point, at least with the ones I've spoken out. Others might be mumbling under the breath, but a few more, inshallah ta'ala. So for instance, if you look here, between the first two examples, yeah, an'amta, can you see the noon has a sukoon? Yeah, noon has a sukoon. And the next example as well, the noon has a sukoon. Min sharri ma khalaq. Surah An-Nas, yeah? But if you come across to the left, to the Indo-Pak Mushaf, to the Uthmani Mushaf, the first one looks the same, yeah? An'amta. And that's what the Indo-Pak Mushaf. So if you see the sukoon, it means that the letter is going to be read clearly. Yeah? An'amta. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. Yeah? So there's no issues there. But you come below, the Surah An-Nas. What do you see? Can someone tell me what do they notice as a difference between the two?
It doesn't have a sukoon.
Ooh, there you go. So what's that telling you? So like they say...
Is it just min?
No. So
No.
like just a second. So what you've identified is correct, that there's no sukoon there. And like they say, the absence of a sign is a sign in and of itself. So the sukun not being there is telling you something. What's it telling you? That the noon is not going to be read clearly. You're not going to read min sharri. You're going to read min sharri ma khalaq. Min sharri, not min sharri. It's called an ikhfa. We'll talk about it in week 3, inshallah ta'ala. You don't need to worry about it now. It's just pointing something out. So in the Indo-Pak Mushaf, you can't tell. You can't tell. You'll always see the sukun. You'll always see the sukun. But whereas in the Uthmani Mushaf, in places where you're not going to read something clearly, that sukun won't be there. If the sukun is present, that means you're going to read that letter clearly without exception. And if you don't see the sign there, without exception, it's not going to be, you're not going to read it clearly. There is something happening. Yeah? Ilyas, with me so far?
Yes, Ustad.
Okay. Slowly convincing you, yeah?
Well, it'll take a bit more time actually than 10 minutes.
Okay, don't worry. I've got all the time.
Start.
It's okay. You have not seen the next slide coming up. Okay.
Start.
Okay. Bismillah. Sorry?
I don't like, I get your point, but with the noon, I know it's different, and you said that it's like, obviously, I know you could tell the difference, but if you know the rule of tajweed there, you know that you're going to apply ikfa regardless of how it's written, because there's a sheen after, and then you know that you're going to do ikfa there. So I know it's written different, but so you can tell if you know the tajweed rule. And even in the third line of the Indo-Pak Quran, even though the noon's the same, you know that the rule of tajweed applies again. You don't say in the third line, you won't say walam yakun, you'll say walam yakullahu. So even in the second, even though the noon's different, and in the third, you know that you're going to be applying the different rule anyway.
Jazakallahu khairan. I was hoping someone would come and defend the Indo-Pak Mushaf. Jazakallahu khairan. Yeah. So firstly, okay, I'll give it to you. If you know the rules of tajweed, you can apply it. Yeah, that's fine. But how many letters are there of ikhfa with the noon sakina? There's 15. There's 15. Yeah. Isn't it easier just to see the sign there in the Mushaf? Isn't it easier? It's like telling me, well, if you know how to drive, then you don't need the markings on the road. You can be on the motorway. You don't need the markings on the road. I'm pretty sure you need them. Yeah. It'll definitely make things much safer.
To be fair, like I don't agree. I agree with you, but I don't agree with you, because like I know you're saying there is a lot of rules, but it's not that hard if you actually know it. Because I know it's 15, but I don't know. There might be other people in the chat. That's why I'm defending it, because I think like some of us know those rules. So for then, I know for some it doesn't make that much of a difference.
I'm talking which one is easier. I'm not. See, if you were a person who didn't know about the Indo-Pak Mushaf and didn't know about the Uthmani Mushaf, if I were to ask you, please tell me which one is easy. Which one is the better one? What would you say? What would you say?
If I didn't know, then obviously then I'll agree with you, because it makes it clearer. But if you know the tajweed rules, then I think it doesn't make a difference.
So then you can argue, well, if you memorize the Quran, you don't need the Mushaf at all. It's like, what's going to make it easy for you, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know the rules of tajweed, you know the surahs, you know everything, then you don't need the Mushaf at all. You can argue anything you want, isn't it? To be honest, I love people defending the Indo-Pak Mushaf. It just makes the class more lively. But yeah, you get my point, don't you?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah? When something is that clearly telling you what to do, what not to do, it's obvious that I can argue further. The Prophet ﷺ never had a choice between two things, except that he chose the easier one. Okay?
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. Okay. So yeah, next one. The bottom two examples. So firstly, yeah. So the next one example. Can someone please? Obviously, please don't be put off from challenging me. Yeah, I'm happy to be challenged. Yeah, it's all good fun. It's all good fun. Yeah, so please feel free to challenge. Yeah. So can someone please read from on the third On the third line on the right from the Indo-Pak Mushaf, how would you read it? It's from Surah Al-Ikhlas. How would you read it? Someone please volunteer. Who's that raising the hand? Just read, please. Yeah, that's fine. Just read.
Okay. Walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad.
Yeah, in this case, it's okay. It's manageable. Even though, at the very least, I'll say it's a bit confusing. Why do you have a sukoon on the noon and then a shadda on the lam? We know this, the recitation of this surah. So then you've recited correctly. Walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. But when you come here to the Uthmani Mushaf, walam yakul lahu, you see that there's nothing on the noon. So what does that first tell you? You're not going to read this noon clearly. Then you look, the lam's got a shadda, the next letter's got a shadda. So what does that tell you? Oh, the noon is completely gone. It's completely merged into the lam after it. So that's why you see what is called a shadda. This like squiggly line, which is basically the head of a sheen, tells you the first noon, the noon which was there before, it's gone completely. You don't hear the noon at all when you're reading now. It's completely become a lam. So there's no sukoon on this noon. وَلَمْ يَكُلْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٍ. Likewise, Surah Al-Kafirun. So when you come here, وَلَا أَنَا عَابِدٌ مَا عَبَدْتُمْ. Abad, you don't do the dal at all. Look here, at the Uthmani Mushaf, it makes it clear. There's nothing on the dal and there's a shadda on the ta. What does that tell you? The dal completely gone. It's merged with the ta. It's become a ta completely. So there you see a shadda on the ta. So you don't do abadtum. You don't do a dal. You do abadtum. So these are few examples of differentiate, like seeing, comparing between the Indo-Pak Mushaf and the Uthmani Mushaf. Yeah. Okay, so far. Is it too difficult?
I just don't see any difference with that ma abattum. I mean, even if
so the way you said it, you said abadtum. You said like a dal. Abad.
No.
It's not abadtum. Abad.
Yeah, well, okay, I probably pronounced it wrongly, but yeah, I know it is ma abattum, and I can, even if I was the Uthmani Mushaf, it would.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. I will give it to you, Ilyas. It's okay. Of the issues, this one is okay. You can still manage. But the previous one, you can't. You can't tell the difference between the noon being clear and the noon being hidden. You can't tell. You can't tell the difference between min sharri and min sharri. When to do that? You can't. Yeah. This one I agree with you. This one is more so. It's like, yeah. Okay, kind of. Yeah, we can let it pass. Yeah, we can agree on that.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one.
Yeah. There's a few more examples as well with regards to the tanween. So basically the things we talked about. So if you see the tanween, the tanween is basically, there's a hidden noon which you read. Salamun. This noon which you do, mun, is not written, but it's articulated. That's the second haraka, the second dhamma, or the second pesh, or the second fatha, or zair, I think. And the second kasra, or the zabar, indicates this hidden noon, which is not written, but articulated. And in the Indo-Pak Mushaf, it's always written the same. Whereas in the Uthmani Mushaf, it's written differently based on what's happening, whether it's clear or not. I don't want to get it too technical because we're going to talk about it in detail week 3, inshallah ta'ala. But again, the point being, it'll clarify how you're going to read it. So for instance, here, sorry. Actually, I haven't put a very good example, but that's fine. Basically, if you can see, there's a difference. See, the two dhammas here and the two dhammas here, it's different. It's telling you something. It's making something clear for you. If you see here, the two kasras, they're aligned with each other. If you see here, the two fathas, they're skewed. That's telling you something. Yeah, likewise here it's skewed. See, these are skewed. So look here. ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. It's not ذَرَّةٍ. If you look there, that's what you think. ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. No, but it's not actually. So it's all giving you signs which you don't find in the Indo-Pak Mushaf, if I'm being honest. Yeah, you don't. It's not there. So far. Hamza, sorry, did you say something?
Ustaz, just a quick question. You mentioned that in the Uthmani Mushaf, when there's a sign of a sukoon, it means you should read it, the letter clearly.
Yeah.
So, question is like, for example, when there's an alif, there's no sign of sukoon. So
we'll talk about it next class, inshallah ta'ala. So the letters of elongation, the alif mad, the waw mad, and the ya mad, they are technically sukoons, but they are different. They are different to other letters. They are different to other letters. It's better to leave it so that we can talk about it properly, inshallah ta'ala. If I just talk about it verbally without showing you stuff, it may not necessarily be the best. Yeah, so we'll leave it for next week. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Everyone okay so far? Is it too bitter a pill to swallow? Saad, okay so far? Are you still here? Yeah. So yeah. So there's more issues. There's more issues. There's like to be honest, I've not sat. It's not my cup of tea to sit and go through the Indo-Pak Mushaf trying to find issues with it. These are just issues which I've just come across since I started teaching some time ago. Yeah, these are just some issues. In fact, like I said, this list is just some issues I've come across. I'm not saying these are all the issues. Yeah, we can talk about each one of them. We can talk about each one of these issues and what that entails, and how that affects recitation, and how that issue is resolved in the Uthmani Mushaf. We can talk about all of that. But the thing is, I'm not here to bash the Indo-Pak Mushaf. That's not my intention. I'm just here to make the point that it's going to be much, much better for your recitation to learn how to use the Uthmani Mushaf, because it's going to help you in that regard. It's going to help you in that regard. It's going to help you in that regard. That's all. Yeah. Because there are issues like when we say made. Sorry. Yes, please come again.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. I was just thinking about it. You know, in the last slide, I don't know which one you followed, whether it was the Indo-Pak or the Uthmani Mushaf, but you did. Could you just go back just one slide, please?
Yeah.
You know, you were reciting the third line. Was it from the Indo-Pak or was it from the Uthmani?
I didn't recite the third line. I just did the last line to show the ikhfa. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. I thought you were doing it from the. I got it mixed up. I thought you were on the third line. No, it's fine. Sorry about that.
Even if it's a mistake from me, not from the Uthmani Mushaf. Okay. You can see I'm not biased. I'm not. But if to be honest, I'm just pointing out things which are there. It's not like I'm making stuff up. We can talk about each of these issues. We can talk about them, but that's not the best use of our time. We spent 5 weeks talking about issues. At the end of it, there's no benefit in it. The only point I'm trying to make is, in fact, after this course, we'll come back to this slide and you'll know what we are talking about, because you would have learned what those mean and how to read correctly in the Uthmani Mushaf. And then we'll look at this slide and then you can tell me, yeah, I get your point. Yeah, I get your point. Yeah, I can. Yeah, this Mushaf helps me to deal with that issue. Yeah. Sorry,
before you continue, just one question. Like, I know you'll probably come across it, but if you do make that change the Uthmani Mushaf, like how long would you say like the rules? Because obviously some of them, the ones that you were saying, obviously it's written different. And they're not in the Indo-Pak Qur'an. So how would you say like getting used to it or learning those rules would take? And would we cover it in this course?
Yeah. So we'll talk about everything that you need. We'll talk about everything that you need from using the Mushaf point of view. It's not necessarily to rectify your recitation, but you will understand when you look at the Mushaf, what does the Mushaf mean? You'll get that inshallah ta'ala. Yeah. What is the Mushaf telling you? The first step, you'll get that inshallah ta'ala. And the thing is, if you're comfortable with the Indo-Pak Mushaf, as I assume a lot of you are, don't worry about it. Everything you get used to. You get used to, yeah. Everything you get used to. And this is a change worthwhile. Like a lot of students have made this change before you, yeah. Is there anyone from any of the courses who has done this? Who's here? Is Nasreen here?
I am Ustad.
Yeah. How have you found it going from Indo-Pak to Uthmani?
Very easy. I don't like to agree with Ustad, but I have to on this occasion.
Sorry?
I said I don't like to agree with Ustad, but on this occasion I have to.
There you go.
It's very easy.
Yeah, it's very easy. Jazakallah khairan, Nasreen, because you know what you're doing, and it makes it easy in that regard. Like once you know what you're doing, the Mushaf is helping you. It's not just it's easy now. You also know that you're doing something correctly, because you know what you're doing. It's not okay. Something is there. I don't know what it means. I'll just go over it, pretending that it's not there. Now you know what you're doing, and that's all.
I'll be honest. I don't think I can read from the Indo-Pak Mushaf anymore because I just don't read it correctly.
There you go. Yeah, and this has been the case with multiple students, like anyone who studied Tajweed. That's what they'll say. They'll say, "We know what we are doing now."
I do. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I do agree as well with Sister Nasreen that yes, since undergoing the course with you and transitioning from the Indo-Pak over to the Uthmani Mushaf, I mean, it has been a fantastic experience, and at the same time, it has not been that cumbersome. It has been pretty smooth, mashallah. Alhamdulillah, so far we are applying all the relevant rules and understanding all the signs in the Mushaf.
Jazakallahu khairan. There you go. Yeah. So you're doing something based on your familiarity. What you will be switching to, you'll be doing based on knowledge. So the knowledge will make it very easy for you to become familiar with it. And once you're familiar with it, it's not just the fact that you're familiar with it now. You also know that what you're doing is what you're supposed to be doing. It's not just, oh, I think that's how it is. Oh, I don't really know what that means. I'll just go over it. Yeah. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, that's fine. Exactly.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. So, okay, I hope I've made my point, yeah? So we need to learn how to use the Mushaf correctly. So now I'll just suggest, like, of all the Mushafs which are there, like obviously all of them are fine. You can use any one of them. Yeah, any Uthmani Mushaf is fine because the rules are same in all of them. The rules are same in all of them. But one of the better ones to use, better ones in the sense, is most widely available, and it's generally the tahqiq, the review process is really good. Is like Allah, like if there's anything you can say, it's like impossible to find a mistake in these mushafs. So these are really good from Saudi. Basically, you would have seen them. You have the green mushafs, and so these mushafs you can find them online as well. If you want, sorry. So obviously, I'm using the app, which is the same as the Mushaf. You can download this app as well for your desktop, and you have the official thingy as well. What do you call it? So you have the official Android and Apple apps as well for your mobile devices. So wherever you go, you can use them as well to read. Yeah, so no excuses there. Well, the apps, the default language is in Arabic. You can easily switch it to English. You can easily change it to English. But these are like the official apps from the same Medina Mushaf. And if you want, you can go to our website and you can get the links as well if you want. So if you want to download that software which I use to read, which is basically the same as the Medina Mushaf, is the Qur'an Flash, you can get the link to download it from the website, inshallah ta'ala, E-Tilawah Academy. And you can get the apps, some good apps as well to use for your tablets and phones if you want. There's links there for you to use. Yeah, so that's that. So that's a good Mushaf to use. Any Uthmani Mushaf will do. Any normal Uthmani Mushaf will do. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to use, if you're going to buy, you might as well buy the Medina Mushaf. Medina Mushaf, yeah. You can easily find it, Amazon, eBay, you can easily find it. It's not an issue. If you struggle to find, just post in the groups, we'll post some links for you, inshallah. Yeah, so the Uthmani Mushaf, so this is where you get started. Yeah, so your homework for next week, or one of the homeworks for next week, is that you're going to get yourself Uthmani Mushaf, a physical one. Yes, download the apps. Yeah, that's fine, but get yourself a physical Mushaf. This is the Mushaf you're going to read from now. It's not, oh, I learn the rules and I'll slowly switch over. No, you start now. Okay, this is your first homework. You're getting yourself an Uthmani Mushaf, preferably a Medina Mushaf. Okay, anyone object? Anyone objects? Okay, there you go. So let's start now. That was all. That was just intro. Now we're going to start learning now. Yeah, it's already been an hour, subhanallah. Okay, we need to learn at least something today, inshallah. We need to learn something. So firstly, the Quran, obviously the Quran has 114 surahs, 114 chapters. Yeah, it's got 114 surahs. The Quran is the Mushaf is divided into 30 ajza or 30 juz. Literally in Arabic, literally means a portion. So the Quran is divided into 30 portions. To facilitate recitation over a period of a month, it's split into 30 juz. 30 juz. Yeah, and in the juz exactly is 20 pages. Exactly 20 pages. Which facilitates Taraweeh. Obviously, the guy is praying 20. Yeah, it facilitates Taraweeh. Except for the first and the last juz, because the first juz has Fatiha and the first page of the Baqarah. So it's 21 pages for the first juz. And the last, because you get into the short surahs, so then you have 2 additional pages. So it's 23 pages in the last juz. So it's 604 pages in total. So any standard Uthmani Mushaf, obviously there are rare older ones which are slightly different, but the widely available ones, it's all going to be 604 pages. 604 pages. So and each juz is divided into 2 hizbs. Hizb again means a portion in Arabic, literally. But obviously juz means something specifically and hizb means something specifically as it relates to the Quran. So each juz has 2 hizbs, which means the Quran has 60 hizbs. Yeah, 60 hizbs. And each hizb is divided into 4 quarters. How that looks in the Mushaf, a typical page of the Mushaf looks like this. So what do we mean now? So first thing to note, which people unfortunately commonly get wrong, is that the ayah number is at the end of the ayah. The ayah number is at the same for Indo-Pak and Uthmani Mushaf, but people still get it wrong nonetheless. Because in English, if you number something, it's at the beginning, isn't it? You don't number at the end. Whereas in Arabic, you number at the end, especially if you do with the Quran specifically, the number comes at the end. So Hamim, and then number 1. Yeah. So can some What's the first word in the 7th ayah? The first in the 7th ayah. Oh, come on, there's quite a few of you.
Allazina.
Alladina. Excellent. It's Alladina. The first word in the 7th ayah. See, the marking of number 7 is here, but the ayah begins there. This is at the end of the ayah. Yeah. So what's the first word? Someone else. What's the first word in the
I think the sound's not working.
Yeah, no, I can hear you. Come on, go ahead.
So we couldn't hear your question.
So word in the 10th ayah, please. Sorry? There you go. That's the issue. It's not
وجعل.
because
وجعل.
the one who answered thumma, see that this is the common issue we have. We look at the number and we think that the number, what form ayah. Actually, that number comes at the end of the ayah. So the beginning of the 10th ayah is waja'ala. Waja'ala. Does that make sense? The one who answered thumma. Sorry, who was that? Yeah. So does that make sense? It's the number comes at the end of the ayah. Okay. It's actually the same. There's no difference in that regard. So, and then there are markings you'll find. The other thing is that, which is actually a very important benefit of the Uthmani Mushaf, that you'll always have the ayahs ending with the ending of the page. The ending of a page will always correspond to the ending of a verse. There will be no verse which carries on. There will be no verse which carries on. You might think, okay, good to have it. How does that affect recitation? Imagine you're flipping over pages. No, don't need to imagine. You know you're flipping over pages. When an ayah is carrying on, what are you going to do? You're reading and you have to flip over the page. You don't this page. You have to fiddle around to flip. Even if you flip around immediately, you're still going to, whatever you're reciting, like Alhamdulillahi Rabbi, and then if the Alamin is in the next page, what are you going to do? You don't know, like, just as an example, it's going to without question. And that is a major issue. It's because now you're pausing or you're elongating something which shouldn't be elongated, or you're pausing in the middle, or even if you chose to stop, Allahu Alam if it was a good place to stop. Yeah. So that's another big benefit. Like every page, like I know there are some mushafs which end in which even in the Indo-Pak mushafs where the page ending corresponds to the ending of a verse, but that's not the case in most of the mushafs which people use. Yeah, most of the mushafs which are available, that's not the case. And then this marking here, what does this marking here tell you? This marking here tells you nisf al-hizb 40. So it's you have reached, this marking relates to you've reached halfway in the 48th hizb. So what is this 48th hizb? So it tells you this is juz al-rabi'a wal ishrun. So this is juz number 20. The juz number 24. What hizbs are there in juz 24? 48 are there in juz number 24. So if you have reached halfway in the second hizb of this juz, that means you've done 3/4 of this juz if you have reached this point. And then obviously have the name of the surah, so Surah Fussilat. So if you go into the, so if you go back looking into the Mus'haf, so for instance, let's go to the beginning, yeah. So Surah Al-Baqarah, yeah, there you go. So where's the first marking? So the first marking is here. So if you were to look here, what does it tell you? It tells you ربع واحد. So this is the first quarter of the first hizb. So like we said, where is this?
We can't see your screen.
Yeah, I'm flipping. I'm flipping back. So like we said, each hizb has 4 quarters. So each hizb has 4 quarters which are marked in the Mushaf, and each juz has 2 hizbs as well. So every 20 pages, you'll have how many markings? 8 markings.
There's nothing on the screen.
Is it not coming up? Sorry.
No.
I'll share again. I don't just a second.
Yes,
Yeah.
From which says that it's presenting.
Yeah, he's presenting the original.
Yeah. So the presentation is in the slides. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
If you can see, there's 4 quarters in each hizb. Yeah. There's 4 quarters in each hizb. So that means there's 8 such portions in each juz. So each juz such markings telling you how much you have read, quantifying to you how much you have read. So 8 markings in 20 pages. So that every 2 pages and a bit, you'll come across a marking telling you how much you have read, basically. So marking on the side is, that's what that marking on the side is. Any questions, please feel free to ask. Yeah. So that's a typical page of the Mushaf.
So can you just show us the page again and just sort of explain to us which one you're talking about?
So this marking here, which I've kind of blown up on the side, isn't it? So this marking tells you
marking on the right.
Yeah, the marking on the right. So this Nisf al-Hizb 48. So it's half of Hizb number 48. So this is juz number, Rabi' wal Ishrun is 24. Yeah. So juz number 24 has 2 hizbs in it, 47 and 48. So this is the second hizb in the juz, and it's telling you have reached half of it. That means you have done 3/4 of the juz if you have reached this point. Does that make sense? So this way you keep track of how much you have read. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. There's something else we need to talk about as well. Which is basically Sajdat al-Tilawah, yeah? Sajdat al-Tilawah. So the marking in the Mushaf, so these are verses where one who's reciting, one who's listening to directly, is now required to prostrate. According to the Hanafis, it's wajib. Yeah. According to the others, it's sunnah. For us, it's wajib to do so, to prostrate. And there's obviously, we know how to do the Sajdat al-Tilawah. I don't want to go into the fiqh of it really. But the point being, it's marked as such. Here you see the marking to tell you it's the point of sajda, and this line tells you what you have recited, which now necessitates that you do a sajda, and obviously it's written to do a sajda now. Once you have recited this verse, once you have recited this verse, you do a sajda. So just a question: how many verses of prostration are there in the Quran? So Sajdat al-Tilawah, how many such verses are there?
14.
Jazakallahu khairan. It's 14. Yeah, it's 14. That's correct. Jazakallahu khairan. In the Mushaf, you'll find 15. In the Uthmani Mushaf, you'll find 15. Because obviously there's a difference of opinion with regards to the verses of prostration. These verses of prostration. According to Hanafis, as most of us are Hanafis, the second verse, the second ayah of prostration marked in the Uthmani Mushaf, don't consider that to be a verse of prostration. So the way the Hanafis understand it is just explaining how the integrals of prayer. So it's that ayah is descriptive and not instructive, as in instructing you to prostrate at that point. Please don't consider that to be an ayah of prostration. So do the Malikis for that one. So second, so it's literally at the end of Surah Al-Hajj. The second verse of prostration in Surah Al-Hajj. So in the Uthmani Mushaf, when you come to the second, which at the end of Surah Al-Hajj, there is it's marked as the ayah of prostration. There's a marking there, which as Hanafi are not required. It's not wajib for you to do. It's not wajib for you to do. If there's any Shafis, and I think there are at least one or two Shafis who are listening in. So according to the Shafis, the sajda in Surah Sad is required. It's not required according to the Shafis. Because the sajda there of Dawood alayhi salam, this is a sajda of shukr. So as such, the sajda of shukr is not wajib. Yeah. So they don't consider that to be a verse of prostration. So there's differences amongst the madahib, but most of the main thing you need to know is the second verse of prostration in Surah Al-Hajj. It's not there. It's not required to do. So as such, we have 14. Even though the Mushaf has 15, which accommodates the difference of opinion, the four madahib, across the four schools of thought of Ahl Sunnah. Yeah? Any questions? Any questions?
Is there a reason that you asked for us to get the Madani Mushaf?
The reason being,
I've got two Mushafs at the
it's the one
moment.
which most that doesn't matter. If you have got any Uthmani Mushaf, doesn't matter. You can use it. There's no issue.
Yeah, I've got Egyptian one.
If you're going to get a new one, then I would recommend, if you're going to get a new one, just get a Madani Mushaf, because teachers usually prefer that. Because it's known. It's like, yeah. Even though any Mushaf will do, yeah. There's no issue whatsoever.
Are all those Mushaf 15 lines?
Yeah, all of them have 15 lines. Yeah, 15 lines. Yeah, there's no yeah. So yeah. So that's the question I'm expecting from someone is, what do you mean? Like, so for instance, why are you saying verse of prostration? Why is like there's two verses written there, or more than that as well? Would anyone like to know what does that mean?
So can you repeat that again? Your connection dropped.
So like in this table, like for Surah Al-Fussilat, the verse of prostration is, I've written it down as 37, 38. Does anyone want to know why? I've not just like put on just one verse, I've put on two verses.
Yes,
No
please.
one wants to know. Okay, there you go. Yeah, just because you asked, we talk about it. Okay, so this example is Surah Al-Isra, and I think in the Indo-Pak Mushaf, it's Surah Bani Israel. That's how it's the name of the surah is Surah Bani Israel, just before Surah Kahf. So if you look at this ayah, yeah. So if you look at the table before, it's written the ayahs pertaining to prostration are 107 to 109. What does that mean? So the ayah which now requires you to prostrate upon its recitation or upon its hearing is ayah 107. But the more appropriate place for you to prostrate is to after having finished verse 109. Why? Just look, because it carries on, the meaning carries on, and at 109, at the end of verse 109, you reach the appropriate point for a sajda. Say, for instance, 107 ends, say, whether you believe in it or not, indeed, those who were given knowledge beforehand, when it is recited to them, fall down on their faces in humble prostration. So if you were to recite this ayah in Arabic as it was revealed, then at this point, would require a prostration. If you have read this, prostration is required. But carry on. When they prostrate, what do they? They say, "Glory to our Lord. Indeed, our Lord's promise has been fulfilled." They fall down on their faces in tears, and it increases them in their earnest humility. It carries on. Yeah, the narrative carries on. And at the end of this ayah, now you've reached a point where that narrative is finished with regards to the prostration. Now is a good place to prostrate. Now is the more appropriate place to prostrate. That's why it says 107 to 109. Does that make sense? So the marking telling you, the line telling you that you have read something now which requires you to prostrate. And this marking, this black marking with the sajda next to it tells you this is the appropriate place for that prostration. Yeah, does that make sense? So the one who asked the question, so yeah, does it make sense? Yeah,
It does, yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to compare.
yeah. So this is basically telling you, if you have read that's the verse of prostration you have read, and this is the appropriate place to prostrate. That's all. That's to do very briefly the sajda al-tilawah. We'll just get it out. It's just.
Sorry, can I just ask you again, what's all the underlying bit for?
So that it's actually an overline. Yeah, that tells you have read something which requires you to prostrate. You have read the verse of the actual verse of prostration.
Right, okay.
So verse number 107 is the actual verse of prostration. But what the Mushaf is telling you, better to complete those two verses. Of prostration, it's better for you to prostrate here. Yeah. Because the dialogue there carries on. If you look at the translation below, it carries on and it tells you now you've reached the point where it's appropriate for you to fulfill the prostration which is required upon you because you read verse 107. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's sajdat al-tilawah briefly. Yeah, so when you come across it in the Mushaf, you know what to do. Hanafis, you're not required. Second, the sajda at the end of Surah Al-Hajj, the second sajda, you're not required. Shafis, you're not required. The sajda in Surah Sad, you're not required. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's any Malikis here. The thing is, there's something else I wanted to talk about. Are you guys okay if we carried on for like 15-20 minutes? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, Jazakallah khairan, with your permission. Yeah. It's just that I had to spend a lot of time convincing you guys about the Uthmani Mushaf. That's it. So it is reported that Sayyidina Ali, karamallahu wajhah, he was asked, so what does the tartil of the Qur'an mean? So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he commands the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Surah Al-Muzammil, وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا, and by extension he commands all of us, his ummah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he commands all of us, وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا. What does that mean? What does tartil mean? And it is reported that Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, he said that tartil means Tajweed al-Huruf wa Ma'rifat al-Wuquf. What does that mean? Tajweed al-Huruf is articulating letters correctly. Yeah, is articulating letters correctly. And Ma'rifat al-Wuquf is knowing how to start and stop. Knowing how to start and stop. As an example, like my English, obviously my accent is no good, but even if someone were to have like RP, received pronunciation, like Queen's English, if they didn't know the proper places to pause, then they're speaking. That wasn't a good place to pause, was it? That wasn't a good place to stop. So even if you can speak well, if you don't know the appropriate place to break your speech, to stop at the right place and start at the right place, your speaking is no good. Yeah? Yeah? You can have the best articulation, but if you don't know how to start and how to stop, it doesn't. So that is to do with our speech, the speech of human beings, mere mortals. So what about the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then? when we articulate it, when we recite it, even more so that we should be careful about how we start and how we stop. And that's why they say like that, like ibtida and waqf, like starting and stopping is a science in and of itself. It's a science in and of itself. So it's not just so, and the Mushaf is going to help us in that regard. It's going to help us, especially us non-Arabs who don't know Arabic, to help us in that regard with regards to starting and stopping, to give us clues with regards to what's a good place to stop, what's not. Yeah, was there any question there? Was there any question there? Okay. So the first thing we need to understand with regards to starting and stopping, it's like breaking your recitation, is that there's three things. There are three things. There are three concepts which you need to understand. So there is that which is stopping. What do we mean by stopping? Stopping is that which you do during your recitation in order to breathe. So you stop, meaning you break your recitation in order to catch your breath so that you can continue again. Yeah, is what you do. You break your recitation in order to catch your breath. Yeah, in order to inhale so that you can now carry on again with your recitation. You can carry on with your recitation. Ending is when you finish your recitation. You stop your recitation and you do not intend to carry on. Yeah, that's ending. Yeah, that's ending your recitation. And pausing is a special scenario, specific points, specifically 4 places in the Quran where you're required to pause without breathing. Without breathing, we'll talk about that. And there's signs for all of this in the Mushaf. Yeah, there's signs for what we do in the Mushaf, what we do in those situations. First, should we talk about this? So stopping is, we'll just ignore this slide. Yeah, we'll just ignore because it's a bit, yeah, we'll just ignore this slide. We'll just ignore the slide. So there are signs. There are signs which are going to help you in that regard, especially because we don't know the Arabic language. There are signs which are going to tell us in the Mushaf that's a good place to stop. That's not really a very good place. Yeah, it's to help us, because we as human beings, we can't carry on reciting endlessly. Yeah, we need to catch our breath. Our breathing is what allows us to articulate. We breathe, we recite on what we exhale. Yeah, as we exhale. So logically speaking, we need to inhale as well. Yeah, so there are signs. There are going to be signs in the Mushaf which are going to help you in that regard. So these signs you'll come across, they mean different things. We'll go through each one quickly, inshallah ta'ala. You'll either see a meme, you'll see a qila, the kaf with the lam, and alif, yeah, jim, like a sad, or you can see a pair of 3 dots, or you could even see a la written. Yeah, you'll see all of these like small markings, and each of them means something. Each of them means something. What do they mean? What do they mean? So we'll look at these 2 ayahs, because these 2 ayahs have all the markings in them. One from Surah Al-Baqarah and the other from Surah Al-Nisa. So the meme literally means mamnu' al-wasl. Mamnu' al-wasl, meaning it's not allowed for you to carry on. It's not allowed for you to carry on, because carrying on results in an incorrect meaning being implied. Carrying on results in an incorrect meaning being implied, so you have to stop. It's required for you to stop and not carry on. Not carry on. Yeah. So these markings here. So in this ayah, so if you see this small meme here on top, yeah. تِلْكَ الرُّسُلُ فَضَّلْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. You have to stop before you carry on. Minhum man kallama Allah. Yeah. So before you have to stop there. That meme, small meme there tells you you have to stop. Yeah, here likewise. Subhanahu an yakuna lahu walad. The small meme here tells you you have to stop. It tells you you have to stop. You should not confuse that with this meme which has a tail, which you will find on top of a noon sometimes. Yeah, it will only be there on top of a noon. We'll talk about what that means in week 3, inshallah ta'ala. We'll talk about what that means in week 3, inshallah ta'ala. But this meme is not to be confused with that one. So this meme which tells you that you have to stop is that which doesn't have a tail, hanging tail, unlike this other meme. Yeah? Straightforward, inshallah. Farnaz,
Yeah.
is that okay so far? I'm doing good, thank you. Farnaz, okay so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The next one is that which is preferred, is a preferred stop. So the qila literally means al-waqfu awla. It's like an abbreviation. Qila means al-waqfu awla, meaning better for you to stop there. You can carry on if you want, but as far as the meaning goes, it's a good place to stop. So better for you to, it's a better place. It's good for you to stop there. Yeah, it's called a preferred stop. And at the end of every ayah is a good place to stop. It's a preferred stop as well. Yeah, even though you won't find the sign there, the end of an ayah, it's sunnah. It's sunnah to stop at the end of every ayah. Sunnah to stop at the end of every ayah. So the qila, if you can see here in these two verses, means it's a good place for you to stop. And also the end of every ayah is a good place to stop. Yeah. The jim means jaiz al-waqf. You're allowed to stop. There's no preference either way. There's no preference whether with regards to stopping there or carrying on. You're allowed to stop. So وَرَفَعَ بَعْضَهُمْ دَرَجَاتٍ. You're allowed to stop there, or if you wanted to carry on, you can. وَرَفَعَ بَعْضَهُمْ دَرَجَاتٍ وَآتَيْنَا عِيسَى ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ الْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَيَّدْنَاهُ بِرُوحِ الْقُدُسِ. You can stop there if you want, you can carry on if you want. Likewise, the markings here and there. So wherever you see a jim, it means there's no preference either way. You're allowed to stop, you're allowed to carry on. Yeah? So it's jaiz. Telling you it's jaiz. You're allowed to stop. So when you see this sila, this marking which is written as sila, it means al-waslu awla. Al-waslu awla. It's like an abbreviation for al-waslu awla, meaning better for you to carry on. Yeah, you can stop if you want. You can stop if you want, but better for you to carry on. So for instance, minhum man kallama Allah. It's okay, you can stop there if you want, but if you want to, if you carried on, better. Minhum man kallama Allah wa rafa'a ba'dahum darajat. Yeah. So when you see this marking, sila, it means better for you to stop, but you can carry on if you want. Yeah. Oh, okay so far? Anyone who's not spoken yet? Mansoor, okay so far?
Jazakallah.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah. So when you see a sila, it means better. You can stop. You can stop, but better to carry on. Yeah. So when you see the pair of 3 dots, so they always come in pairs. That means it's waqful muta'aniq, or it's also called waqful muraqabah in Arabic. It basically means you're allowed to stop on any one of them. Yeah, if you stopped at any one place, the meaning is sound. It's sound. But you can't stop at both and cut off what's in between. So you're allowed to stop on either one. You're allowed to carry on, but you're not allowed to stop on both. That's what it means. So the one you're to come across is the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. You're allowed to stop there if you want, and then do هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Or you can do ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. But you're not allowed to stop on both such that you cut off what's in between. Yeah, then meaning is lost. Yeah, if you stop at either, the meaning is still sound. You can't stop on both. That's all. Yeah. The other one is the disallowed stop. So la means al-waqfu mamnu', tells you that you're not allowed to stop. You'll find this in some Uthmani Mushafs, not all. Like the Medina Mushaf, you'll never find the la written. You'll never find the la written in the Mushaf for a logical reason. The reason is logical. Like you're not allowed to stop anywhere. So unless it makes sense for you to stop. Like if I stopped after I said like, it's not a good place. Again, not a good place to stop, is it? Yeah. So any place during my speech is not a good place to stop other than when I've completed what I'm saying. So if you were to take it to its logical conclusion, then you pretty much put la on every single word other than a place where it's okay to stop. So if it's not there, then it's understood that it's not a good place to stop. Yeah. But in some mushafs, in some Uthmani, just a second, sorry. In some Uthmani mushafs, you'll find this to tell you that's especially not a good place to stop. That's all. You'll find it to tell you like if you see that there, do whatever, try to avoid stopping there because that's an especially bad place to stop because of the implied meaning. Like for instance, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We have not sent you except as mercy to the all of creation. So if you were to stop وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ, this is waqfun qabih. This is a very foul stop because you said we have not sent you. Because the meaning is completely gone. Yeah. So there are places where if you stop, then the meaning is complete. Like La ilaha illallah. If you stopped after La ilaha, saying there's no God. So there are if you stop at certain places, it's worse than others. Like some places are worse than others. So that's why in some like Uthmani Mushaf, you'll find this la telling you that's particularly not a good place to stop. Apologies, coming back to the question, yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Basically, you said that like where that like a small alarm is, you're not supposed to stop, right? So let's suppose like you're reading and sometimes like when you run out of breath and the stop's not there, so you go back a few words and then you carry on your recitation. So in this instance, so for example, you come across the la and then you've run out of breath, would you go back a few words and then carry on your recitation again? Would that be appropriate?
Jazakallah khair. This is actually, this relates to what I skipped because I thought it would become too much to mention. Because where is it? So it's that. So there are different types of stops. So there is a stop which is compelled. Like you have no choice. Like you've run out of breath. What are you going to do? Like you have no choice. You're forced to stop. Yeah. Or if you feel like a cough coming up. Yeah. Or you feel like a sneeze coming up. Like even though you could have carried on, you had enough breath. You have to stop now. Or if you see something dangerous about to happen, like you have to stop. Yeah. So in those cases, there's like you have to stop, even if it's a foul place to stop. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you have to stop. You have to stop in it.
Then would you not just like go a few words back? Because usually
what is prudent is don't get to that point. Don't get to the point where you're out of gas. If you're driving a car, you're not going to think of, okay, I'm going to run out of fuel. You're not going to get to that point. You're always going to make sure you've got something in the tank, isn't it? Like, don't get to the point where you're like now out of breath. Like, stop before you reach that point, before you're blue in the face, and then carry on again.
But isn't it like some, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it like some stops like there's like a few lines away? So
your ability to read lengthy in one breath increases over time. So know yourself. If you know you can't get to that end, like there's no point trying, is there? Like like if you know you have only got like 5 pounds worth of fuel, which is probably a sick joke now given the situation you guys are in. But and you want to drive all the way from Liverpool to Manchester. It's like, you know, you're not going to get there. Why are you trying? It's
Yeah,
like,
that's fine. Makes
you'll end
sense.
up in a bad place, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, so if you can't get there, like why even try? Like, be reasonable. But things get easier with time. The things get easier with time. So now potentially I could potentially complete this ayah now, possibly, if I wanted. I think so. But when I started off, no way I could. Yeah. So know yourself, and that increases slowly with time. So yeah, a lot of reciting the Quran is just like common sense. It's like, why would you do such a thing? Like, why would you force yourself? Like, you're out of breath at the end of it. It's like, it's even funnier if you do it. You're leading prayer and you're like,
No, yeah, it makes sense.
yeah, like it's ajib, yeah. So that's that, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, those are the different signs. But the key thing to note, la is the exception. It's the place where you're not allowed to stop. Everything else is where you're allowed to stop. So at the very least, you're going to be allowed to stop. So obviously the meme, you're required to stop. And everywhere else, it's actually the Mushaf is telling you could stop there. So as a person who doesn't know Arabic, I'm going to use that. Like, doesn't matter if it's preferred or not. It's telling me it's allowed. At the very least, yeah, I can stop there. So every time you come across a marking, better for you to stop. Better for you to stop, because it gives you a chance to breathe. Especially if you're reading unfamiliar passages of the Quran, you don't know when the next stop is going to come up. Yeah, and you don't know how. And yeah, if you don't have much in result, yeah, it's always good to stop. Wherever you see a mark, just stop. So any marking you come across, doesn't matter if it's a required stop, if it's a preferred, if it's allowed, if it's not preferred, just stop. It's the more sensible thing to do. Yeah, especially if you're reading, if you're starting off, and if you're reading unfamiliar passages. Yeah, just stop. Okay. Very quickly, pausing. Sakt, seen, when you see a scene, there's 4 places where you'll see. There's one more place, but that's optional. We'll talk about it in week 4, inshallah. So these 4 places, according to our recitation, which I should have mentioned previously, are like all of us, we recite, regardless Indo-Pak or Uthmani, we recite from Hafs from Asim. Hafs from Asim by the way of the Shatibiyya. We don't need to get into what that means, we just mention it. The way which we recite, it's transmitted down to us from the Prophet ﷺ that you have to pause in these places, you can't carry on. So pausing is literally you don't breathe, you're not breathing, but you have broken your recitation. Yeah, you have literally paused, you're not stopping. So Surah Al-Qiyamah, وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقَ وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقَ. I haven't stopped there, I'm not breathing, I'm not catching my breath, but I have to pause there. That's how it's been transmitted to us to recite. Yeah. Likewise, Surah Al-Mutaffifin, كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. Again, I need to pause. The other 2 places where you're required to pause is actually places where, so Surah Al-Kahf at the end of end of the first ayah, there's a pause there. If you wanted to carry on, you would pause. If you wanted to carry on. So if you wanted to carry on, وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ عِوَجًا قَيِّمًا لِيُنذِرَ بَأْسًا شَدِيدًا. If you wanted to carry on there, you pause. But you typically stop at the end of the ayah, so it doesn't really affect. And Surah Yasin here as well. It's actually a place, see, there's 2 signs there. There's qila there, the qaf there, and the sin there. So it's actually, what is it telling you? It's telling you it's actually a good place to stop. And the pause there is because the first statement is the statement of the disbelievers when they are resurrected. قَالُوا يَا وَيْلَنَا مَنْ بَعَثَنَا مِنْ مَرْقَدِنَا. So woe unto us who has brought us forth from our resting places, from our graves. And the next statement is actually the statement of the angels who reply, هَذَا مَا وَعَدَ الرَّحْمَنُ وَصَدَقَ الْمُرْسَلُونَ. So this is what the promise of your Lord, and the messengers, they conveyed this unto you in truthfulness. So the second statement is a response to the first. So don't carry on as though it's all from the disbelievers. Yeah. So that's why there's a pause there. There's reasons as well for the other pauses, but better not to go into them for now, because I'm already on thin ice with you guys as it is. Yeah. So the scene means you pause but without breathing. Not to be confused with the scene you see sometimes on top of the Sad or sometimes below it, which we'll talk about week 4 inshallah ta'ala. It's got nothing to do with this. It's got nothing to do with the pause. That scene means you read the Sad as a scene. When you recite it as a scene. So you don't read Yabil Sutu, you read Yabil Sutu. You read it as a scene. And if it's below as well, then you have a choice. We'll talk about that in detail later, but the point is that's not this scene. Yeah, this scene is different. That's it, inshallah ta'ala. Any questions? Any questions?
Ustad,
Sorry.
with the first example that's from Surah Al-Qiyamah, where the scene is, do you still do the ikhfa, or do you like get rid of the ikhfa when you pause?
No. If you see, actually, the circle's covering the sukun there. So once you've stopped, how can you do you've stopped your recitation? Sorry, even though you're not breathing, you've stopped your recitation, isn't it? There's a break in your recitation. So the normal ruling doesn't apply. There are other recitations where you carry on, but you don't. Our recitation you don't. Yeah, the other recitations you recite وَقِيلَ مَرَّاقُ, but you don't do that in our recitation. You observe the sakt. You observe the pause. Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Do we have access to the slides?
Jazakallahu khairan. So I'll be sharing them. So I'll be sorry.
Is it possible to share them on the WhatsApp link?
Yeah, I'll be sharing. So I'll be uploading them. So it's already uploaded. I'll share the link to the folder, inshallah ta'ala. All the slides will be uploaded, and all the class recording you'll have access to it as well, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah. Any other questions?
What did you say was the website address? I couldn't find you on Google.
I will share that as well. It's E-Tilawah Academy. It's literally this, E-TilawahAcademy.com. Okay. Yeah. So very quickly, apologies. I didn't expect the class to go on for so long. Apologies. So very quickly, so we're going to do this for 5 weeks, inshallah ta'ala, within which we are going to get competent on using the Uthmani Mushaf. So 5 weeks, what are we going to do? So today obviously was the controversial session, setting the cat amongst the pigeon, but also hopefully we got some theory covered, inshallah ta'ala, with regards to just getting acquainted with the Mushaf and what it entails, what does it have. So next week we're going to talk about the Hamzas, a tale of two Hamzas, yeah? And we'll also talk about the Alif. Week 3, we'll talk about sukoons, how to deal with them, yeah? Sukoons, what do we do with sukoons? And then week 4, there are things which we need to know about, generally speaking, with regards to reading. And there are some rules which we need to know about when we're reciting, which we'll talk about, inshallah ta'ala. And week 5, we'll have a game, we'll have a quiz, an online quiz, yeah? We'll do it on Kahoot, we'll have some fun, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? We'll have some. So homework, obviously the first bit is to get yourself an Uthmani Mushaf. That's the first homework. Second homework, so the page which I recited today, I'll repeat again next week, inshallah ta'ala. The first page of Surah Al-Imran, which is the 3rd chapter of the Qur'an, which comes after Fatiha, Baqarah, Surah Al-Imran, the 3rd chapter. Try to just go through the page. Just the page. I'll repeat the page next week, inshallah ta'ala. Go through the page, try to read it, and if there's any questions, and I'm sure there'll be many questions, mark all those questions. What are you, why is that like that? What do I do here? What does that mean? Mark all of those. Yeah, just go through the page, come back next week when I recite. After I've recited, ask any questions you have. ask any questions you have. That's your homework, inshallah ta'ala. Any questions on that? Any questions? Sorry, I haven't been able to speak with everyone. Munib, is that okay?
It's a lot to take in, but inshallah I'll be all right.
Inshallah. Apologies. It's yeah. I'm trying to keep. I'm trying to just keep it 5 weeks, not let it drag on. Because if it drags on, then it's not good. It's just trying to stick to a schedule, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, that's your homework. Get yourself an Uthmani Mushaf, a physical Mushaf, which you're now going to use to read. It's going to be your Mushaf, which you're going to read from. Download the apps by all means. Facilitate yourself to read as much as you can. Yeah. And the second one is just go through the first page of Surah Al Imran. I'll recite it again next week. Ask any questions if you have.
Ustad, sorry to interrupt. Just quickly, one last question. You know, obviously in the Pak Qur'an, you know, like when it comes to like, because I've seen it, because I think it was in Surah Kafirun. You know, because I've seen it in other places as well. And when I've recited using that in the back, that's why I knew, but obviously you spotted it today, but I stopped. But even though in the Quran it says it, in the back it says it different, because my ustad like told me off for it. You know, with the ana, it's like, you know, the alifs, and on the Mushaf of the Uthmani Mushaf, it clearly says it has that circle, but in the back it's not. So what I wanted to ask, just to make it clear, wherever there's an ana, it's never recited, it's never stretched, the noon, right?
It's never recited except when you stop on it. If you stop, then you do ana. If you carry on, you don't. But it's not just to do with ana. Ana is the one which repeats off. It's called 7 alifs. We'll talk about it next class, inshallah. There are 7 alifs. Ana is one of the 7. There are 6 others as well, which have a similar issue. Again, you'll get into trouble with in the Indo-Pak Mushaf, but it's clearly marked. So it's not just the ana. Yeah, ana is the one which
that was just example.
Yeah,
right.
it repeats throughout. So there's at least 3 examples in Surah Ahzab. There's one in Surah Kahf. There's others as well. Yeah. So where you will get into trouble. But this is one of those things. Yeah.
And sorry, just to make it clear, on that one example, wherever there's an ana, you don't stretch it unless you're stopping.
Unless you're stopping.
Okay,
that's
perfect.
Always. Yeah.
Right, that's perfect. Thank you so much. So good.
So that's homework, that inshallah ta'ala. The thing is, there's been, alhamdulillah, decent response to the course. I also want to help with recitation. Obviously, we are just going to be here for 5 weeks. Hopefully, we can just recite like Surah Fatiha and the 4 quls, also the surahs from the end. I do recitation sessions. So on Mondays for sisters, same time, like 7 o'clock, and same time for brothers on Tuesdays. If anyone is interested to recite as well, to practice their recitation, just very light, then please get in touch with us. And if there's a big number, then we'll have to see how to work things. But if it's still manageable, the people who want to practice their recitation, inshallah, we'll do the same. So it's Mondays for sisters and Tuesdays for brothers, where I do recitation sessions. So you're most welcome to join, inshallah ta'ala. But if you want to do so, just messages to let us know that you're interested, and we'll look at the numbers and we'll see what's the best way to facilitate that, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, because everything that we learn, the ultimate aim is to be able to recite properly. Yeah, everything is to facilitate that. Everything is a means to the end, which is reciting properly. Yeah. So if you're interested, just let us know, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, that's literally all. Apologies. I'm really sorry for having gone on for so long. Inshallah, with that we'll finish. Unless there's any questions. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions before?
Who do we send it to if we want to recite?
So just Just
WhatsApp
reply
number.
to the admin number, admin number in the group, or just post it. It's up to you. Just let us know, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah.
Jazakallah khair.
وإياكم إن شاء الله we'll finish there. اللهم انفعنا وارفعنا بالقرآن الكريم واجعله لنا إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة. اللهم ذكرنا منه ما نسينا وعلمنا منه ما جهلنا وارزقنا تلاوته آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله لنا شفاء وشفيعا وحجة يا رب العالمين. وجزى الله عنا سيدنا محمدا صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم ما هو أهله. وجزاكم الله كل خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Waalaikum salam.